Hi everyone, it's Dr. Odette Suter. I think I am live here. There's always a little bit of a challenge here. I am going to post one link in the first section here as the first comment, just so you have it for the newsletter, because as usual, after any of the Facebook Lives I'm going to send you some cliff notes. So if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll be getting those. And it looks like people are showing up. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. So if you wouldn't mind posting a quick little comment as to whether you can or can't, that would be great. And I'm, in the meantime, just going to also share it to a group here, just to make sure. Um, yikes. All right. Let's share to all my peeps at the Holistic Advice and Raw Feeding group. Oh, hi, Hannah. Hi, Lauren. Thanks for saying hi. Anyway, so where was I? I was going to share real quick and then I'll be with you guys. Share to a group. Holidays. All right. There we go. All done. Hi, Diane. Good to see you. Happy early Thanksgiving as well. Hi, Leong. Hi, Claudia. Hi, Gail. All people I know. That's so awesome. It's good to see you guys all with that whole social, distancing and not seeing people and all of that. It's kind of nice to see you guys here online. Thankfully, we have that. Going back a few centuries, they didn't have that. But then everybody died too. So, anyways, on that note, pleasant note, for those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Odette Suter. I'm a holistic veterinarian, and I'm focusing mostly on holistic healthcare. And if you want to learn more about my practice, you can just kind of wander around my Facebook page here, but you can also check peakanimalhealthcenter.com, which is my website. There's actually going to be a new website soon, but it's not quite ready to launch. It still needs a little beautification. But anyways, my one of my favorite things is to, obviously work with the animals in person, help them heal and all that good stuff. But I also love to teach people and provide information so that, you all can do better for your animals, because we all know things that we know, and then there are things we don't know, and so that always opens up the space for learning and doing things differently and improving upon things. Something I do in my own life all the time. Always learn something new. So anyways, I love sharing information. I love teaching people. And I do that through my book, What Your Vet Never Told You, which is available on Amazon. And then also I have an educational series, Animal Longevity Secrets Revealed, that you can also access. It's a very in-depth video series with tons of information. And I also just recently published an EMF course. So I will put all of these links into the comments as well, just so you guys have those. All right, here you go. Anyway, so today I'd like to talk a little bit about holidays and how to prepare for it, because a lot of times, we see emergencies a lot more right after the holidays, or, like the day after, or even the day of, depending on what's going on with the animals. And I would like for you to not have to deal with that and have a safe, holiday season that kind of goes smoothly with lots of joy and everything, because, well, usually there's enough going on with the family, right? So when everybody comes together. So anyways, I want to make sure that your furry family is really safe and protected and doesn't have any issues that way. So the first thing would be, plan in advance. Make sure you have your veterinarian's phone number, you have an emergency clinic phone number near, that is open and is able to take your animals in if they can. And then I also recommend the ASPCA Poison Control Hotline phone number. And that phone number, I will post that in the link here, um, in the comments, so that you have it as well. Um, so always make sure you have all of these things ready, so that you're prepared just in case something, happens. Generally, it's very much recommended to take quick action if something happens because it can save lives. So, for example, if your dog ate a bunch of chocolate or your cat ate something from the tree, that tinsel or something it shouldn't have, make sure you take action right away. Don't wait, especially with things that are ingestible, that have potential for toxicity. You want to make sure that they get out, that they come out right away so that there's not the toxicity that kind of lingers and then because the thing is that the toxins get absorbed into the system, and once they're in the system, we can't really take them out. But when they're still in the stomach, then they can be removed. So it's always better to get things out right away and not wait. Um, so I have had some animals that ate brownies and other types of chocolates or um, especially with cats who like to chew on lilies and those types of toxic plants. You want to get it out right away. You don't want to wait. So, don't give it an hour or two to see if anything happens. It will be a little bit too late by that time. So, when in doubt, get it out. And I want to talk a bit about that, about some tips and tricks that you can do at home. Obviously, um, the best thing is always to keep whatever wrapper or whatever it was that they got into so that you can actually show it to your vet, to, at the emergency if you have to go, just so they know what's been ingested, because that will help them, figure out an appropriate treatment. And you can also call the pet poison helpline and find out, if what you think your animal might have eaten or, ingested may be toxic, and they can help you with that. But always best to talk to your vet, even if you have to just call the emergency clinic and say, look, my dog ate this, and what do I need to do? Do I need to come in? What do I need to do? So it's always best to, always to talk to a veterinarian or a pet poison expert, if there's something that's been going on that way. Um, there are ways that you can induce vomiting at home. Um, but it very much depends on what they ate. So if they ate something that, if they're already throwing up, then I would not, make them throw up even more, because most likely things have already come out, and we'd want things to be a little bit more calm in the stomach. So we don't want them to continue to throw up. Or if your pet is unconscious or weak, they may aspirate vomit. So you also don't want to do it then. And after 2 hours of ingesting a toxin, usually it's already passed into the small intestine and has most likely been absorbed to some degree. So at that point, it's also a little bit too late to do some vomiting, because induce vomiting, because it will not really help. And any caustic substances that can cause burn, going down and coming back up, it's also better not to make them throw up, such as with bleach, drain cleaner, etc. All right, let me do this real quick here. As much as I like the sun and everything, it's a little hard to see. All right, here we go. Um, so how can we induce vomiting in animals? Hydrogen peroxide is a tried and true kind that you can use, the 3% hydrogen peroxide from the pharmacy. It's better to have a newer one, because the older ones tend to lose a little bit of their efficacy that way. And the dosage would be 5 mLs, which is 1 teaspoon for every 10 pounds of body weight. So if you have a dog that's 50 pounds, that would be 5 teaspoons. And you can mix them with a little bit of vanilla, mix it with a little bit of vanilla cream, ice cream, or honey. Obviously, make sure there's no preservatives in any of those. Or you can just syringe it directly into their mouth as well. And then just get them to move around, shake them around the stomach a little bit so that the hydrogen peroxide can irritate the GI tract, the stomach, and then induce vomiting. And it takes about 15 minutes for stuff to plop back out. Um, and if that doesn't happen in 15 minutes, you can try another dose. And if that still doesn't do it, then definitely go right away, go to your vet right away. Call them or go, just put them in the car and go. So don't give a third dose. And again, just make sure that the emergency clinic that you're, picking is actually open during the holidays. So make sure you're prepared that way. So that's regarding vomiting. Um, oh, good. Diane, you just bought some hydrogen peroxide. That's good. I like that. It's good to be prepared. So any questions that you guys have, as I'm talking, please put them in the comments, and I will definitely answer them. Um, Make sure that you guys are well prepared. All right, so we talked about if they ingest things, we want to make sure that things get back out. Let me see, I have my cheat sheet here as far as oh yeah. So what can you do to prevent all of this from happening? That they would ingest something they shouldn't. For one, keep food out of reach, especially with those that are very well-known counter surfers or garbage examiners. They will be much more prone to ingesting something that they shouldn't. So make sure you put it away. If there's no real chance of doing that, for example, if you have a Thanksgiving spread or you have a low coffee table, everybody's sitting around it and your dog is eating, it's trying to eat as well. In those cases, you may just have to lock them out, and put them in a different room. And that is certainly something that you could start training them or getting them used to today, because most likely they will kind of put up a little bit of a fuss if they want to eat when you eat, if they want to get some, in on your feast. So you can also already start to train them, put them in a crate or put them in a bedroom somewhere where they cannot be partaking in the food, and just kind of train them that way so that they're already, that they already know. You can also just, give them a little treat as you put them in there, and just kind of, yeah, just leave them there. So that's one way to, really contain the ones that are a little challenging. And I would also recommend maybe locking the door, because some dogs and cats are very good at, jumping up and opening things up themselves. And you also want to make sure that your guests stay out and don't just open the door. So you'd have to kind of lock things up. Um, Clear the table and the counters right away when you're done, as quickly as possible. Because in some dogs, especially the ones that are a little more sensitive, and some cats as well, even just small amounts of turkey or turkey skin can really cause life-threatening digestive issues such as pancreatitis, for example. So if you have a dog that's or a cat that's particularly sensitive to, um, you know, foods that they shouldn't be eating, make sure that they definitely don't get a chance to eat anything, because your guests are not going to be taking care of your animals that way. You're going to have to be the one that makes sure. If you have kids that are responsible, for example, you could also just assign one of those to, watch the dogs and watch the guests, kind of play police. um, as I mentioned, when in doubt, get it out. Cooked bones and carcasses, and especially meat ties and wraps, are particularly hazardous. Cooked bones and carcasses, they can splinter and then can get stuck in somewhere along the GI tract and cause some damage, which may require surgery to remove them, because if they get stuck somewhere, they don't, they have to be removed. Um, especially with cats, meat ties and things like that. You definitely want to make sure that, they don't eat those. And if you see anything sticking out the butt, like a rope or like a meat tie type of things, do not pull on it. Because if you pull on it, you could actually damage the entire GI tract. Because if it's stuck somewhere in the GI tract and you start pulling on it, it will kind of create a bit, it will, the tube of the intestines will kind of turn into a little accordion. And if you keep pulling on that, it will definitely cause damage to the GI lining. So you don't want to do that at all. Again, when in doubt about anything, please consult with your veterinarian on that. Definitely secure the trash. If you have to put a brick on top of the lid or whatever you have to do, put a lock on it, put it outside, to make sure that they can't get to it, then please do so. If you just put the trash outside as a bag, make sure I don't recommend doing that because raccoons and skunks and or whoever is out there, rummaging around, you don't want them to get sick either. So make sure that, it's also secured outside. Um, what you can also do with your guests, you can just have a bowl of treats for your dog or your cat if they are into treats, and you have like a limited amount, and you can just tell them, look, this is what my dog, cat can have during the time that you're here. If you would like to give them a treat, please take one of those. Once the bowl is empty, please stop. Don't give them anything else. So you may also have to kind of, educate your guests a little bit about what they can and can't have, but people forget and people are like, oh, but he's so cute and he's looking at me and he's hungry, so they will give things anyways. But so those are definitely different options. um so let's see, any questions? Training is key. I agree with that. The leave it command is invaluable, yes, unless your guests are not saying that to the animal. So but definitely, yeah, that is very important. So some of the harmful foods that animals can get into would be chocolate. All forms of chocolate, be it in like cake or brownies or truffles or whatever it may be. Especially the darker the chocolate is, the more likely it is to cause issues. Coffee is also not ideal for animals. Um, and then onion and onion powder. So if you have some broth or some, if you're making bone broth or if you're making anything that has onions in it, please do not give that to your dogs and cats. Okay. So make sure that if you are wanting to make some bone broth, make sure you don't add some onions to it. If you have leftovers from the turkey, for example, and are making bone broth out of that. Garlic, not so good for cats. Dogs can handle it. Also, make sure that there are no grapes and raisins. The best thing would probably be to not even offer that kind of food. Don't put any raisins in your sweet potatoes, which I think is disgusting anyway. But and then again, I'm not American and I don't like raisins. But maybe also avoid the things that could be toxic to your animals and not even offer that to your guests. Macadamia nuts are toxic as well. Some animals will also quite enjoy some alcoholic beverages, especially if they're sweet. If you're serving some Baileys or some other liquor. Um, Definitely want to stay away from moldy foods and spoiled foods. If you don't want to eat it, if you think it's not safe for you to eat, it's probably not safe to eat for your animals anymore either. Careful with fatty foods, especially with those that already have some GI issues and a history of pancreatitis, for example. You definitely want to be careful because that can aggravate things. And then make sure that you keep candy, gum, and other types of foods that or sweets that are sweetened with xylitol away, because those are xylitol is pretty damaging. It's really it's deadly. So you want to make sure that you don't have anything in the house with xylitol, and also maybe ask your guests when they come in, do you have gum in your purse? Do you have anything, that might have xylitol in your purse? And then make sure that your animals don't have access to that. you may also just take it from from your guests and throw it out and give them $1 or something, so they can buy more later when they leave. Tea leaves, you got to be a little careful as well, so make sure they don't get into that. And then also raw yeasty dough, because if they eat raw yeasty dough with the heat in the stomach, the yeasty dough will expand and cause a lot of gas and kind of get stuck in there. So definitely keep them out of the kitchen too if you're making any kind of yeasty something or other. Let's see. And then as far as Christmas ornaments and Christmas tree and Christmas plants, you want to be sure that you know what they are and whether they're toxic. So, a lot of times our guests, they will bring some plants, some beautiful plants like Christmas rose, holly, lilies, mistletoe. If you have mistletoe, poinsettias. I hope I said that right. Daffodils, Christmas cactus, pine and cedar, etc. Those are all toxic to dogs and cats. So, especially cats, they love chewing on lilies, and it's very toxic to them. So, make sure that if you do get any type of plants, if you know that they're toxic to your animals, just place them in the garage or outside if it's not freezing cold or something, just to make sure they can't get to them. So make sure you lock them away so they can't go nibble on them. Um, Especially around Christmas with the Christmas trees, and gifts and ornaments and all that stuff that we use. You also want to make sure that you're extra careful for that. So I'm sure you've seen photos on Facebook about of people attaching the Christmas tree upside down on the ceiling so that the cats can't get to it and the dogs. So whatever you have to do, if you have to put like a playpen sort of barrier around it, especially with puppies, you have to be careful because everything is fun to them. Everything goes into the mouth. So you want to make sure that, you keep them away from that. So ribbons, they can be an issue, especially if they get around the neck. They can also cause them to choke. They can also cause blockages and trauma to the gastrointestinal tract if swallowed. Um, Lights, you have to make sure that they can't get to them either. And I guess I have to admit that when we were kids, we actually had real candles on the Christmas tree. Not something that's done anymore. Well, maybe it still is in Switzerland. I don't know, but we definitely had to be very careful with that. But we had a Christmas tree that was on the table, so our small little terrier dog couldn't really get to it. But one Christmas, she went to the neighbors for a day, and she ate all the chocolate at the bottom of the Christmas tree. So got to be careful. So if you actually, you know, um, if your animals are going somewhere else while you're out of town or something like that, make sure that you kind of lay down the rules and that that the person who's taking care of them is going to be careful, because you don't want to have like an emergency call in the middle of your vacation, or time away, about your animal being sick and at the emergency. Anyway, so electrical lights, they can cause burns when pets chew on the cord, so that's not a good thing. Fire salts, they can contain chemicals that are toxic. Angel hair, which is basically spun glass, can be very irritating to the eyes and the skin, and it could also cause intestinal obstruction if they eat them. Um, Christmas tree water, that's another one. It's stagnant water that can often contain preservatives that can also result in stomach upset if ingested. So also keep your animals away from that. Decoration hooks, they can cause blockage and trauma to the gastrointestinal tract. So again, depending on what your animal ingests, you do not want to make them throw up, because you don't want to cause more damage. So if you know that some sort of shards from an ornament, from one of these bulbous types of ornaments, got into your animal, you want to make sure you don't make them throw up, because they could cut up the esophagus quite well. in the process. Styrofoam can also cause choke, and then any kinds of ornaments can cause issues as well when when they break and pets are swallowing them. And then potpourris and candles can also be an issue, so make sure that you keep them safe with those as well. Keep those out of reach or don't use them at all because, in my opinion, they stink anyway. And candles, careful with scenting any kind of scented things around your animals in general. That's not just for Christmas, just because it's it smells strongly and they have a very strong sense of smell. I mean, they have bionic noses. So if we may not be able to smell something, but they will smell it quite well. And yes, in Colorado and other states where marijuana is legal, definitely make sure that edibles are not just being, passed out like that. Oh, hi, Gabby. How are you? Gabby is one of my vet colleagues in Mexico. Um, Anyways, so just be careful, that you 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 keep your animals safe. So those would be like the Christmas hazards. New Year hazards are balloons, confetti, and then loud noises. And since we have about 6 weeks to go until the new year, right now would be a very good time to get them started on desensitizing them for the loud noises. So you can find some music on YouTube that mimics, fireworks, and you can start playing them at a very, very low volume that is tolerated by your animal, and then feed them some good treat with it or play with them, just something that makes them feel good at the same time, and then slowly increase the volume, but you never want to increase the volume past to what they can tolerate. So if you're going past the threshold of their tolerance, you've gone up too quickly. So you want to back it down and always connect it with a good treat or something of high value to them so that they start associating the loud noise with something that's fun and enjoyable. Okay. Um, so that would be something that you would definitely want to start right now. And that'll also help you for the next 4th of July. So you want to keep it up here and there. Um, Same for thunderstorm music if your animal has issues with those types of sounds. Wintertime is usually a good time to desensitize them for that because there's obviously not as many thunderstorms um, as in the summer. So whatever noise sensitivity wise they have an issue with right now would be a good time. If you're traveling with your animals, make sure you're prepared as well. Make sure you have a vet number and an emergency place that is open where you're going. You will also, if you travel interstate or internationally, your pet will have to have a health certificate from your veterinarian. So make sure you plan ahead. Um, you also want to properly restrain your animals in the car, but that goes without saying because I'm sure everybody is traveling with their animals already. Air travel can be a little more risky, especially with big animals. If you have to put them underneath, may not be worth the trip because, well, they don't all make it to the other end. So might be better to just get a pet sitter or a house sitter or check into a boarding facility that will be available to your pets and make sure that you prepare their immune system for any sort of stress ahead so that you can maximize their health. So if you have to put them in a boarding situation, make sure you bump up their immune system so that they may not, so that they won't catch everything that's going around there, like kennel cough and diarrhea or whatever it may be. So make sure you prepare them ahead of time for that. If the boarding facility requires vaccination, don't do it the day before. Make sure you give it at least 2 to 4 weeks so that your animal's immune system is going to be back up and working, because with every vaccination, there's always a decrease in immunity for about 10 days after, during the 10 days after the vaccine. So you don't want to do that right before you leave. Plus, they're already stressed out, so immunity is even lower. So they're also at higher risk of having a vaccine reaction. So you want to be sure that you kind of plan ahead and don't do things last minute when it comes to boarding and vaccines. Many boarding facilities, they will also accept titer levels. and they will also allow you to sign a waiver for Bordetella vaccine. Um, because what they're really concerned about is that you will sue them if your animal gets sick. So a lot of times they will allow you to do that. And if you're just talking to an employee of a boarding place and um, they say they don't have anything like that, make sure you talk to either the manager or the owner of the boarding facility, because they may be more amenable to working with you. You can also ask your veterinarian to call them. I've done that on numerous occasions where I just called the boarding facility and I told them my patients don't get Bordetella. What can we do? How can we work with that? And oftentimes it works out just fine. That they um, that we can work together and if we communicate. So definitely plan ahead of time. I would also keep their diet and supplements as close to what you usually feed them. If you board them and you want to change from like a raw diet, for example, to a freeze-dried diet, please do that ahead of time at home so that their GI tract is already used to that. So I wouldn't do any sort of quick transition, like, feeding raw and then buying a bag of kibble and dropping that off at the boarding facility. I wouldn't do that. Make sure that they can take care of the medical needs that your animals may have, such as, giving them drugs that they need, like whatever it may be, thyroid hormones, blood pressure medication, whatever that your animals are on, make sure that they can take good care of that. And then, provide them with your emergency contact information, of course, as well, your veterinarian's information, and also the emergency place that you would like for them to go to should there be an issue. So that's for the holiday things. Oh, there was one more thing I had here. So with visitors and parties, obviously set them up for success. So I would also recommend when your guests come in, just to talk to them. Look, I have a dog, I have a cat here, and they cannot leave the house without supervision. So please keep all the doors locked or closed. Don't open them. You could also put a sign on the door knob even, that says don't open, escape artist is impossible to catch, or something, fun, where they actually have to pay attention before they open the door so that they are reminded every time, because people forget, and they come in, they're excited, and they forget. It's kind of like when somebody introduces themselves to me, they tell me the name, it just goes in and out just the other end. I don't seem to ever be able to retain names. So they're also not able to retain all that information because they're happy to see you. There's a lot of commotion going on and everything. So make sure you put little reminders in different places. Make sure that your animals are wearing a collar with identification or a microchip. Collar with ID tag for those that have, any kind of diseases. For example, if your dog has diabetes, make sure you have a little tag on it that says, my dog has diabetes, so that if there's any issues, if somebody finds the dog, then they know what to do, and take care of your animal properly until it gets back to you. Um, you can, with the escape artists, you can also just leave a leash on them. That makes it a little easier for you to catch them. Or if they get out, it's also a little bit easier to catch them if there's a leash attached to them. You could also put it on a GPS collar. Usually I don't recommend GPS collars just because there's a constant emission of electromagnetic radiation from those. But, for escape artists and especially also scared dogs, it may be a good idea to have one of those on so that you can track them and see where they are, and that way they'll be easier to find. um, Never let your guard down. So especially with a generally mellow animal, you want to make sure that you know where they are at all times. If need be, just again lock them in a room, put them in a crate where they can't get out. It may also be good to give them plenty of exercise before your guests arrive, because a tired dog or cat is going to be a better animal to be around and is less likely to escape. And if they're anxious, again, just keep them away from the guests because your animals in your house, this is their home. So make sure that they feel safe in their home and they are taken care of that way. They have, they take priority over your guests. So set them up for success, provide a quiet and safe place for them so that they can retreat away from your guests. Um, Same for exotic animals. Also make sure that they're safe. And you can also alert your guests of any sort of bad habits that your animals have, such as food sensitivity, begging, biting, whatever it may be. Especially when kids are around. Oftentimes dogs are fine, but when the kids keep bugging them, then sometimes there can be some biting happening. Same with cats and their claws. So make sure that any guests that come uh, with kids, that the kids are educated about the animals, what they are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. Because again, your animals, that's their home and it shouldn't be invaded by little aliens that don't know how to behave. And if your guests have pets of their own that they would like to bring, make sure that your animals are okay with that. If not, politely decline and just tell them, no, my animals will not accept other animals to come into their homes. And so please, make other arrangements for your animals while you're here. Um, Again, your animals, your home is for your animals. All right, so I think that's about it. Hi, Betsy. All right, keep them out of the kitchen, especially when you're pulling things out of the oven or working at the stove. Yes, definitely. You want to make sure that you don't fall over them with your turkey in your hand or your soup or whatever you're making. So you want to make sure, all of that is, yeah, that everything is kind of safe. So, anyways, that's my spiel on the holidays. Any questions, anyone? We can also talk about any other things, whatever's on your mind. Feel free to let me know what those may be. Um, I guess we could also talk about cold temperatures, especially in the northern areas, Chicagoland, for example. It gets pretty cold around the holidays, so that is definitely a worse time for an animal to get out and get lost. Because if it gets really really cold, they may not make it. So definitely make sure to pay particular attention. Um, I guess if you have an animal that begs a lot and will steal a lot of things, um, they do make muzzles if there's no other option, but you'd have to get them used to that as well. So I wouldn't do that last minute. Um, yeah, doesn't look like there are any questions. Um, Well, then, on that note, I will close up here and wish you guys all a very, very happy and successful and pleasant holiday season with your animals. And as usual, if you'd like to get the cheat sheets that I've already prepared this time, you can sign up for the newsletter. It's in the first comment, and I posted some other links as well for you to check out things. There will definitely also be a Black Friday, Giving Tuesday, small business, something or other deal that will come out soon. So stay tuned for that. If you need any holiday gifts for your family and for their animals, there will definitely be some goodies that are going to be a little bit discounted. So, anyways, stay tuned for that. Giving Tuesday, I will be giving some money back to the AHVMA. Sorry, AHVMF, which is the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Foundation, and they invest the money in research, holistic research, and also in students that are interested in learning about holistic medicine. So they get a scholarship So a lot of the money that is really goes into training veterinarians and having more information and studies on holistic medicine, herbs. Right now, there's a hemangiosarcoma study going on. So if you just feel like donating, that would be a good place to give. And I know the money is being used wisely, not like some of the other foundations of, you know, um, where a lot of the money goes to the executive officers. So anyway, so thank you again so much for having joined today. Please remember to sign up for the newsletter, and I'll see you in my next talk. And happy holidays to all of you. Enjoy it, and lots of love and hugs to you and all of your animals. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and thanks for being here.